And good morning and welcome to the, what is it, Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday edition of the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg, and on this January 22nd, our special guest in studio today, we're pleased to welcome Kelly Ferneau, who is the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. You're an Executive Vice President there. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
How are things going?
They're going well.
Do you like the cold weather?
No, not this cold.
No?
No, I do like snow.
Yeah.
But this cold is kind of brutal.
It's a little brutal out there. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like pristine, and I think the one thing I do appreciate about it is when it snows, it doesn't stick to anything. It just keeps blowing around, unless
Yeah.
you compact it when you're driving and
Yeah,
such.
it made it easy to shovel, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Instead of the wet kind of snow.
Yeah,
But
and get it off
yeah,
your cars
get
and
it off
stuff
the
like
car,
that.
yep.
But we'll talk with Kelly in just a couple of moments about a whole slew of things. I've got 100 questions on my list. No, I'm just kidding. But we will ask you to introduce yourself and give your origin story. Talk about your role at Cook Nuclear. It's exciting. When were you appointed Chief Nuclear Officer? It was last fall sometime.
It was October 31st on Halloween.
Halloween, trick
Easy
or
to
treat.
remember, right?
Did they bring you into the office and say, Kelly, trick or treat?
Your choice, yeah.
Wow, that's fun. Okay. So you've been in the role for a couple of months now, 2.5 months. And so we'll ask you about that. We'll also ask you about some of your community involvement, because you are a big player in Berrien Community Foundation. And so we appreciate your community commitment, and you're coming in here and talking with us today. We already received a road report from you. If people missed that, you drove in from near Coloma. How are the roads out there?
The roads were fine. They're snow-packed. Just got to give yourself time to get to the stop sign without sliding through. But visibility, no problem. Just a little bit slick out there.
Will you sign my petition for studs on snow tires? I don't have one yet, but I want to. I'm thinking I should probably start a petition, because there's a gubernatorial race coming, and people are already announcing all on both sides of the aisle, big players. Jocelyn Benson, Secretary of State, she announced today. Last week, we had State Senator Eric Nesbitt announce, if I can get them on board, we can have studs on our snow tires. What do you think?
It would help
Yeah.
getting to those stop signs safely.
Right?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And they're not going to brutalize the roads any more than they already are.
Any more than the snow plows.
You didn't expect this morning, did you? All right. So we'll talk with Kelly Ferneau. She's our special guest this morning. Again, Chief Nuclear Officer. Join us. If you have any questions about nuclear power or anything else about Berrien Community Foundation, please feel free to put them in the live stream comments. We'll get to the questions as we can. And we'll have news and a note about closings in just a moment. We received a slew of closings yesterday. Usually they come in overnight, like right before 5 a.m. Yesterday, they started in around noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. People knew.
Well, if you have kids that have to wait for buses and things like that, it's just too cold to be standing outside.
You don't even want to play with that. Yeah. Do you have pets?
I do.
What do you have?
I have a 30-pound mutt. Her name's Ripley. She's just the best thing ever.
How's Ripley doing with the cold weather?
She's funny. She tries to go to the restroom with one paw, off the ground. So it's pretty entertaining to watch.
Oh, goodness.
She can play ball for hours, but now she goes out and comes right back.
Does her business, and that's it. All right.
I'm not having it.
We'll be back in just a moment. It's the WSJM Morning Show. More from Kelly Ferneau. It's the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant, coming up in just a moment.
0622. That's 800-885-0622. Start your relief today.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
Thank you so much for joining us on the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's a -1 on the thermometer right now in Benton Harbor. It is 2 degrees above zero in St. Joseph, and in South Haven, it's 0 on the temperature scale. But let's look at what the feels like temperature is. Benton Harbor, it's -17. In St. Joseph right now, the feels like temperature is -18. And in South Haven, it is, what's the feels like there? -19 in South Haven right now. Dowagiac is -3 on the regular temperature scale. Feels like it's -18. So it's bitterly and dangerously cold out there. That's why we have a ton of closures and cancellations on our website. So check out our website. I won't run through the full list right now, but tons of schools, tons of community centers closed today or delayed by a couple of hours, or remote learning in the case of Lake Michigan College, closed because of the winter weather. We are still under a winter weather advisory, for Berrien and Cass counties. Today, a new one starts. We were under one. It expired. We're under a new one starting at 1 o'clock this afternoon. It runs until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We have the cold weather advisory that, good news, that should expire around 10 o'clock this morning. So the temperatures will be coming up. We're supposed to get a high today of 18 degrees above zero. We're now, it feels like, of around minus 16, minus 15, but we're supposed to get high of 18 by the end of today. South winds are going to continue hampering visibility on the roadways. We are expecting gusts up to 30 miles per hour. Tonight's forecast, mostly cloudy, chance of snow showers continuing, just like today. A low overnight around 8 degrees, south winds gusting up to 25 miles per hour. And Thursday's forecast, tomorrow, we're looking forward to mostly cloudy skies, a 40% chance of snow, a high around 25, and west winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. Again, we'll start our interview in just a moment after news with our guest this morning. It's Kelly Ferneau. She's the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear, the Executive Vice President and Chief Nuclear Officer. And so we'll talk a little bit about her background, her role as Chief Nuclear Officer, and some of her community commitments with Berrien Community Foundation and more. It's all coming up in just a moment right here on the WSJM Morning Show. If you've not already, check out our video live stream. It's live on YouTube and Facebook. Some of the news that we're following this morning from the WSJM newsroom. With the winter weather this week, the Michigan Department of Transportation has been active 24/7, 24 hours a day, they say. MDOT spokesperson Nick Sharippa tells us the agency has about 85 snow plows stationed currently or working currently throughout southwest Michigan. However, he says they still can't be everywhere at once, so do be careful on the roads.
In weather like this, we try to plow everything we can nonstop. So when snow is falling, our plows are running nonstop. Certainly routes like I-69, I-94, US 31, they may see in some of those routes may get doubled up and have 2 or 3 plows depending on what the snowfall is.
Sharippa says in temperatures as cold as what we have now, MDOT can only use their blades to scrape the roads clear because salt won't work. I-94 was noticeably clearer than side roads yesterday, but still slick.
That really is a constant battle, and the fact that you're seeing any degree of clear pavement in this kind of weather really is a testament to the ability and the dedication of our winter maintenance staff, and they really are the unsung heroes, the rock stars of the story.
Sharippa says when the snow is coming down, it can be tough, if not impossible, for MDOT to keep all of the roads clear. That's why a period of cleanup always follows snowfall. He asks drivers to remember, give plows plenty of space. State law says you got to stay 200 feet behind. That's required. In fact, Sharippa says a few hundred feet behind a snowplow is probably the safest place to be when you're driving in heavy snowfall. Other news, the St. Joseph School District has added new roles and new faces to their board. At the first 2025 Board of Education meeting that happened this week, the board selected Carrie Wright to become the new president of the board. Now, Wright, who most recently served as the vice president, says he's looking forward to continuing to provide quality education for all students at St. Joseph schools.
You know, I've been on the school board since 2016 and had the great opportunity to watch and learn from all those that came before me, and continuing to focus on being a servant leader and serving all of our stakeholders in the districts, especially our students, is first and foremost for me.
In addition to the new board president, 2 new members were present as well. Becky Foster, who was recently elected to the role, and Jillian Conrad of Corewell Health, who was appointed to fill a vacancy. St. Joseph School Superintendent Kristen Box tells us she's excited to see what's in store for the new year.
We have such dedicated people around our board table, indeed, and people who are ready to step into the officer role, and we're grateful for that commitment, and we know that their commitment will continue to elevate our students' experience and continue that tradition of excellence in St. Joseph Public Schools. As
an appointee, Conrad will serve in her board role until the next general election in 2026. And the list of guest speakers slated to appear at the 2025 Michigan Black Summit in Benton Harbor keeps growing, with some new additions announced yesterday. Neighbors Organizing Against Racism President Trenton Bowens tells us set to speak on Friday, February 8th, are now gubernatorial candidate and Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson and Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist. Bowens says Gilchrist is one of the big gets for the event, but now obviously with Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, that too.
We extended an invitation and he accepted. And it just shows the commitment of our small organization, such as Neighbors Organizing Against Racism, work that we're doing and what we want to continue doing. And it shows that a vital to Black Summit is becoming in this area.
Bowen says Gilchrist will discuss Black leadership in Michigan, and Benson is expected to talk about the Black vote.
She spoke at a previous one, and we were so excited. And with our theme, the Black Dollar, Black Leadership, and the Black Vote, we could not extend an invitation to the Secretary of State.
Bowen says Michigan Economic Development Corporation CEO Quentin Mesner will speak on Saturday. He'll talk about the Black Dollar. The Michigan Black Summit takes place February 8th and 9th at the Mendel Center's Grand Upton Hall. Bowen says new this year will be a youth summit along with it, featuring workshops with the Workforce Development Institute and at the Boys and Girls Club Teen Center. We have a link for more information and the full schedule at our website, WSJM.com. It's 7:12. It's the WSJM Morning Show. We've got sports. We have a special guest in studio, Kelly Ferneau, the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. We're going to start that interview right now before we get to sports, and then we're going to continue it on the social media live stream that we have. But first off, let's just say good morning to Kelly Ferneau.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming in today. We appreciate you braving the roads out there. They weren't that bad, but the temperature, that's bad.
That's bad.
That's bad.
Yeah.
But Kelly Ferneau, thank you for joining us. You recently became the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. We'll ask you about that in just a couple of minutes. But first off, for people who don't know you, welcome to the WSJM studios.
Thank you. It's my first time.
First time on
Yes.
the air here.
Yes.
But you were also recognized as a Moody on the Market Bold Woman of Business. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On that as well. But first, talking a little bit about your origin story. For people who don't know you, who's Kelly Ferneau? Where are you from?
So I am from Indiana originally. I grew up there and
Whereabouts?
near Fort Wayne, a small town called Huntington.
Oh, nice.
And my grandparents are actually from Michigan. My grandmother graduated from Manistee High School. So my family roots are in Michigan.
Nice.
They ended up moving to Indiana. So that's how I ended up there.
Okay.
Born and raised there. I went to college in Indiana, a university called Trine University that's mostly around engineering. When I was in high school, they had a week-long program to try to get women interested in engineering.
Okay.
And I was always interested, as I grew up, if my dad was going out to work on the car or the lawnmower, he'd let me tag along. And so engineering was kind of always in my head. And so I went to that week-long program and we visited the Kellogg's factory in Battle Creek and we came to the Cook Nuclear plant.
Really?
And that time the visitor center was amazing. And I can still remember going to the visitor center at Cook. And after that trip, I'm like, man, I want to work in nuclear power.
You have to be kidding.
I'm not
That's
kidding.
Great.
This is
That's
all
a great
true.
story.
And so I ended up going to college at Trine University as mechanical engineering. After college, I ended up working in Illinois at a nuclear power plant there for the Constellation fleet.
Okay.
And it's in Byron, Illinois, which is just south of Rockford.
Okay.
And I worked there for quite a few years. That's where I've spent most of my career.
Yeah.
And then, so my dad started having some declining health and I wanted to move back closer. And so I had the opportunity to go up to Palisades plant, which is just 30 miles north of here up by South Haven. And I went to work there and I worked there for about 5 years. And I've been now down here at Cook for 11 years. Wow. So kind of full circle from my high school days when I wanted to work in nuclear power, seeing the Cook Visitor Center to now being the Chief Nuclear Officer.
Whoever put together that program, the week-long immersion course to get females interested in engineering, you ever make contact back and say, that did change my life?
I didn't, but I should because it really did.
Yeah.
It's kind of surreal to think about how it's all come full circle, but that really was a really good program and definitely hooked me.
Because somebody at some point had to say, we need more females in engineering. How do we do it? Well, maybe we give them a week-long class. That's not going to make any difference. Well, look what it did.
It did.
That's fabulous.
Yep.
That's really cool. All right, we're going to continue this conversation in just a moment on the video live stream. We'll come back here on the radio as well. But first, let's get to sports, and we'll have Dave Wolf, and we'll come back and talk more with Kelly Ferneau. She's the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant in just a moment.
In the NHL...
All right, it's the video live stream portion of the WSJM Morning Show. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate you. And I love that story. Do you tell that a lot?
I've told it a few times.
Yeah.
I recently did a podcast for work, and that was on there, and got a lot of people interested. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to share this story because, well, first it's true,
Yeah.
but it shows the impact that you can have for things that help develop you along the way.
Yeah.
And then I think it promotes nuclear, which is, I'm a huge fan of.
Is this an internal or external podcast?
Internal
Okay.
for AEP? They did post it on LinkedIn, so it's
Oh.
out there publicly.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Does it have a catchy name?
I don't know. It's the AEP podcast.
Okay. All right.
American Electric Power is the LinkedIn site.
I mean, I think about, sorry, I'm going to mess with my microphone. That's what I do. I think about nuclear power. And so I grew up in Washington State. And so we had the Hanford nuclear power plant.
Mhm.
And my last visit there was when they were doing vitrification of some of the stuff that had leaked into the soils. And so nuclear power has, it seems like, come a long way since when its inception.
It has. The public support for it has changed dramatically,
Yeah.
especially just over the last few years. It's one of the few things that got bipartisan support in the government, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
If you think about having a cleaner environment, cleaner atmosphere,
Right.
nuclear is carbon free. So it's always on also.
Yeah.
So I think we have to have a mix as a country, but if you think, just solar and wind, they're not always on.
Yeah.
And the land that it takes for those compared to the land for nuclear, for the amount of power it produces, is much different.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
Yeah. You think about the footprint of the solar energy and what it requires to bring energy to power a light bulb. A lot different with nuclear. You can do a lot, and it's getting smaller.
It is. It's getting smaller. We're looking at small modular reactors for the country, and I think those are maybe 10 years out, but they're starting now. So,
Okay.
and that's pretty exciting.
Do we, well, let me hold that question for just a moment because we have to get back on the air here. We're talking with Kelly Ferneau. She's the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. Do you ever break that out and just say, I know what I'm doing. I'm a Chief Nuclear Officer. I'm in charge of a power plant.
I don't know. I'm pretty kind of humble person.
All right. Fair enough. All right. We'll ask you about hobbies as well at some point during this hour. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us on the video live stream. We have a lot of good mornings to you. Good morning, Kelly, from Teresa. Teresa says, "Are you staying warm?" We're all staying warm. Yeah. So, well, let's hope we are. Bill says, "Good morning." Teresa says, "Good morning, Billy." That's the first time I've seen him called Billy. All right. So we'll keep the video live stream going. Keep your comments. It is the WSJM Morning Show. Back in just a second.
Partly cloudy to start today. We still have wind chills that are near 15 to 20 below. We're going to get up around 18 this afternoon, but we also see snow showers return. A winter weather advisory returns this afternoon through tonight and tomorrow for fresh accumulating snow. We'll see that lake effect snow continue tomorrow with highs in the low to mid 20s. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
It's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. 7:19 is the time. And in the studios and on the video live stream, we have a special guest in studio today, Kelly Ferneau. She is the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant, and she's agreed to join us. It's her first time in the studios, so thank you for joining us, and thank you for giving us your backstory on how you got to the role of where you're at right now. For those who don't know, and I'm going to jump around a little bit because I'm just fascinated by this whole topic, but for those who don't know, what is the role of a Chief Nuclear Officer?
So I'm basically in charge of the whole plant.
Okay.
And then the other piece
That's a big responsibility.
It is. We've got about 950 people that work there full time.
Okay.
That number goes up when we have planned outages
Yep.
by at least 1,000 people. So a lot of people that I'm responsible for. I'm responsible to make sure the plant is safe.
Yeah.
I'm responsible to make sure the plant's reliable. And I'm responsible to make sure our people are safe. So that is my biggest responsibilities. And then for the Chief Nuclear Officer role, the other piece that's kind of new from what I was doing before is the external meetings and external engagement that I have. So we have groups like the nuclear electric industry. They are out of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And they have all the CNOs, Chief Nuclear Officers from all the nuclear plants, work with them to promote nuclear, to help with legislation that would promote nuclear, those types of things. And then there's other different industry groups where all the CNOs work together for a common good to promote the industry and make sure that the industry is safe and reliable.
Yeah, we were talking and we started broaching the topic a little bit about nuclear power. How has it gone? I mean, we all remember the horror stories. We also remember the great stories of how clean it is and how long it can last as far as a power generation source. How has the industry transformed over and evolved over the past few decades?
So the industry has gotten, I'll say, safer and safer. If you look at the modifications we've done to the plants, if you think back about Fukushima, they had design differences that wouldn't be applicable here to the plants in the United States that caused some of their issues. But as an industry, we rallied around that and we came up with, if we had some crazy large tsunami or some natural disaster, how would we respond?
Yeah.
And we've developed strategies, new equipment on site, in tornado-proof buildings, generators, pumps that we can deploy to make sure that we can provide cooling to the plant.
Yeah.
And then all the plants work together. So we have the equipment on site, but then we also have 2 regional facilities, and any nuclear plant can get the equipment out of those regional facilities within 24 hours to help combat any kind of an event. So that's one of the things about the nuclear industry. We learn from each other and we make improvements along the way, even for something that wouldn't necessarily be something that could happen here, but it's like, okay, what could we do to make sure that we're even safer? So the safety factors of the plants have gone up exponentially over the last decade.
Yeah, you talk about the Fukushima and that one, that was triggered by a natural disaster, but then the cooling became an issue.
Correct. They didn't have any power.
They didn't have any power, so they couldn't cool.
Right.
And part of it was the equipment they needed to clear the stuff or whatever to get things back in order was blocked by the natural disaster that had happened.
Correct.
So that's one of the key learnings that has been transferred across the industry now.
Yep. And we have equipment in this tornado-proof building that can bulldoze anything out of the way. If our power lines fall, it's going to clear that out of the way. So,
that is super cool. What prepares you for the role of chief nuclear engineer or chief nuclear officer? Excuse me.
So throughout my career, I've had lots of training along the way. That is one of the things about working at a nuclear plant. You can go to college and come get a job, but you can also come right out of high school and get a job, and we provide all the training.
Yeah.
We don't do the training for engineers, but like to be an operator, all those kinds of things. So I have gotten a lot of training throughout my career, and I mentioned how the industry works together. So as soon as I became the chief nuclear officer, this NEI group reached out, had an onboarding meeting with me talking about my roles and responsibilities. They hooked me up with another chief nuclear officer who's been in role for a while to be my mentor.
Nice.
So a lot of mentoring relationships and things along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking with Kelly Ferneau, she's the chief nuclear officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. When you went to school to be an engineer, what were you focused on? Where did you think you were going to go?
Well, even before I went to school, I wanted to work in nuclear.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a focus. When I interviewed, I had several job offers, a valve company, U.S. Steel, the nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
And so I had lots of options, but at the end of the day, nuclear is what spoke to me.
Where was your first job in nuclear again?
It was at Byron Generating Station, which is in Byron, Illinois, just south of Rockford, and it was part of the Constellation fleet.
So what were you doing there, and what tell us about the Constellation fleet?
Sure. So I started there as a system engineer, and so I was responsible. I did thermography. Have you seen those thermography cameras where you look, you can see things that are hot?
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I was responsible for that. I designed that program. I did check valve testing.
What did the program do? Sorry.
So like electrical equipment, if there's a loose connection, it'll start to get hot.
Okay.
And so what this allows you to do is you can look at the thermal camera, like, what was it, Predator?
Yes.
Yes. So
she knew exactly where to go. It's like, you've seen that Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, right? Yeah.
So you can go and see things that are getting hot before they fail.
Yeah.
And then you can take action to fix it before the component actually fails.
And
so
you developed that program.
Maintenance. Yes, the technology existed.
Right.
I just made the program for the plant to determine what we need to go monitor, what kind of frequency, those types of things. And it allowed us to get an insurance credit to reduce our insurance rates. So that was pretty fun.
That is cool.
Yep.
That is cool. In any other interesting roles between, I'm sure they're all interesting to you, but Tell us more.
So after engineering, I went to operations and I went to get my senior reactor operator license.
Okay.
So I'd only been at the plant for 4 years, and operations was something I always wanted to do. They're the ones that know how the plant runs. They're the ones, making the day-to-day decisions on what needs to get done and how. And so that was an 18-month-long program, all training and lots of tests. And then we actually have the Nuclear Regulatory Commission come in and give us our final exams. And they're the ones that actually give us the license to operate the plant.
Wow.
And so I did that. I worked my way up in the operations organization. After that, I went into the maintenance group.
Okay.
It was called the Fix It Now team, which was pretty exciting because any little issue that goes on, that team gets put on it and fixes it. And so every day you felt really good that, you made a difference that day and you made something better for the operators.
That is amazing. And it occurs to me, I don't even know how nuclear power generation happens. I assume a lot of stuff, it's probably all incorrect, but can you give just a layman's view of how is nuclear power generated?
Sure.
Okay.
So there's a lot of similarities.
I'll try to follow along. Sorry.
There's a lot of similarities between nuclear and the rest.
Okay.
But the main difference is we have our reactor vessel that has our nuclear fuel in it.
Okay.
And at the end of the day,
And that nuclear fuel is basically something that's radioactive.
it's radioactive.
Okay.
It gives off a neutron.
Okay.
And that neutron goes and interacts with more uranium that's in the fuel assembly. And it causes a chain reaction, and that creates heat.
Okay.
The heat is used to heat up the water. There's two different types of nuclear power plants. There's a pressurized water reactor and a boiling water reactor. We're a pressurized water reactor. So in the pressure vessel, if you will, we're creating this heat, but it's at a high pressure, so the water doesn't actually boil. But it goes through a heat exchanger, and the water on the other side of the heat exchanger is actually what boils.
Okay.
Gives off the steam. The steam goes over to the turbine, spins the turbine, and that spins the generator, and the magnets in there is what actually creates the electricity. So like a coal plant or a gas plant, everything after the way the heat's created would be the same.
Okay.
The boiling water reactors, those plants, the nuclear fuel heats the water and it boils directly there and goes into the turbine. So that's the only difference, is that extra barrier between the water streams, if you will.
Is there a preference?
I like pressurized water reactors simply because it gives us 3 different layers. So the water in the reactor vessel does become radioactive, but we have that first heat exchanger as a barrier between the radioactive water and the environment.
Yeah.
And then the water from there gets cooled by a separate flow loop, which has another heat exchanger, and so the water doesn't mix.
Yeah.
And so we have 3 barriers of water before anything gets to the environment. So very, very safe.
Thank you for that explanation. I now think I understand. All right. We're talking with Kelly Ferneau. She's the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. All right. So you were part of the Fix It team. What'd you do after that?
After that is when I made the move up to Palisades.
Okay.
And I went there.
Palisades has been in the news a little bit. You want to talk about it at all?
So, Palisades was one of the plants that wasn't economically viable and was shut down. And as we talked a little bit earlier, the recognition that nuclear is an important baseload for our country to make sure when you flip your switch, your lights are going to come on.
Yeah.
And so there's an effort now to restart that plant. And it's pretty exciting. I believe they will restart it.
Yeah.
I don't know their timeline, but they're putting a lot of effort and work. And that plant, I believe, will be coming back online to support the country's power source needs.
Yeah, one of the things that Palisades is working through right now, we've reported on it a couple of times, is some sleeves for their steam thing or mobobbers or whatever they call them.
Steam generator.
Generator.
That's the heat exchanger that I was talking about. That's between the reactor vessel and the secondary side.
They discovered some issues with that, and so they've applied to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission permission to put a sleeve on it to fix it. And so the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is taking a look at that, and I'm sure they'll come back with an answer at some point. But what is it like working with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission? Can you give people just an insight into, you think your taxes are tough? Try working with the NRC.
They are a very professional organization, very smart. They give us our license to operate.
Yeah.
And so we have 2 folks on site all the time, and they come out and they evaluate us. They inspect us. We have a lot of inspections, and they're there to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing because they're charged with protecting the public as well.
Yeah.
So it's a very professional relationship. They're very good communicators, so they'll let us know anything that they're seeing that we need to address, those types of things. But yeah, and we have 2 inspectors on site, but then we have inspectors all the time coming in to look at different programs, our radiation protection, our security, our emergency planning. So we get lots of visits from them.
Very nice.
Yes.
All right. We will, and if you're ever looking for some great nighttime reading or even during the day, go to the NRC's website because they have every single document that they've ever thought about touching on their website, including that for Palisades and that for Cook Nuclear Power Plant. But it's comforting, I feel like, to have that agency go through every dot and tittle to know exactly what's happening, where it's happening, and why.
Yeah, and they're completely independent.
Yes.
So it's good to have that total independent oversight with a clear mission.
Yeah, we're talking with Kelly Ferneau. She is the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant, also Executive Vice President there for AEP. We'll continue this conversation in just a moment. We've got to get to some news, Bloomberg Market Minute, financial information, ABC with national news, and more coming up right here on WSJM.
Have you been thinking about building your savings? Probably. Has it been hard to set money aside? Always. Put your savings on autopilot with superpower.
Go back on the video live stream. Let's see who else we have here. Oh, Teresa says, Bill, I hope you aren't upset with me for accidentally calling you Billy. She has a friend named Billy. See, it's fine. Teresa, I'm sure it's fine. Bill's not even his real first name, by the way. He had his Facebook account hacked. He had to start another one, and he chose a name, and it's a long story. It's a long story. We know our people here. Let's see. Did Cook stop giving tours of how it works? They had a beautiful setup there.
We don't use the visitor center any longer, but we do some tours. And one of the really exciting things we started is we have a Scout exploring post. So a lot of the Scout community, we've had the Boys and Girls Club, those types of things have come into our training building where we have a simulator where we can show how the plant operates. With the scouting post, we look at all the different departments to try to get kids some ideas of future jobs that they could have, those types of things. And then we do a lot of outreach at public schools for science night. We'll have a group of folks that go and those types of things. So we do a lot of outreach in those ways.
When you do that outreach at the schools, what's the biggest question you get back from our young minds?
A lot of it is, how do I get a job there?
Yeah.
Because we do a lot of fun stuff with like making candy reactors and we have a real steam turbine, that they could play with. So it's just kind of fun for the kids. It's not just someone standing up and talking to them.
Yeah.
So it really kind of sparks their interest.
Did you bring a candy reactor this morning?
I did not.
And if not, why not?
Because it's early.
Oh yeah, no. And so that's great. And so, how far out do you go? Just Southwest Michigan? Are you going into other states, Indiana, Illinois?
Southwest Michigan is where we focus our outreach.
Would you say the primary population when you're not doing refueling is from Southwest Michigan? The employees there?
Yep.
Okay.
We do have some folks that live in Indiana, Michigan City. There's some folks that and we have folks that live in Kalamazoo. But yeah, all in this general area. And then when we have an outage, we bring in 1,000 extra folks from all over the country.
Yeah. The tourist center that they ask about, why was that shut down? I think I know, but I want to know for sure.
Basically cost.
Yeah, okay.
The building isn't in good shape anymore, and it's pretty expensive to fix up. And at the end of the day, our costs are what our rates are based on for our customers. Yeah. And so we just didn't feel that was a needed investment.
Yeah. It's got a great view though.
It does. It does. It makes me sad because I mean, that's where my interest started.
Yeah.
But we're managing, with the other tours that we do and the outreach and things like that to keep the Cook interest out there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We're going to continue this interview in just a moment. Kelly Ferneau from Cook Nuclear Power Plant. It's 7:35. We've got the Bloomberg Market Minute coming up next. We'll also have the latest ABC world and national news. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about this morning? Oh, and I definitely, while Kelly's here, want to ask her a lot about Berrien Community Foundation. In fact, we can ask you the first question now. How long have you been involved, and what's your role with Berrien Community Foundation?
I've been involved for a couple of years, and I'm a member of the foundation board.
Okay, and what do you do as a member of the foundation board?
So we look at kind of oversight of the foundation. And then we also look at different things that we approve what's going to get funded.
Yeah.
For me, the foundation is something that I really enjoy just because of the benefit we add to the community. It feels good to be able to help in that way. And it also opens my eyes to the different struggles that different folks in our community have that I might not see in my everyday life. And so I really get a lot out of seeing what is all out there and how can we come together as a board to support the community.
And we'll talk more about the Berrien Community Foundation and some of your other efforts in just a few moments. It's Kelly Ferneau. She's with the Cook Nuclear Power Plant as their Chief Nuclear Officer. We'll continue the interview after news.
Look for the current quarter. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
And we're continuing our interview on the video live stream with Kelly Ferneau. She's the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. First, a check of weather. 1 degree is the temperature right now in Benton Harbor, 1 degree above 0 Fahrenheit, 2 degrees above 0 in St. Joseph. And let's see, South Haven has crept up to 1 degree as well. So we're doing great.
It's warming up out there.
It's warming up. Make sure you have suntan lotion on today. No, I'm just kidding. The feels like temperature out there is still bitterly cold. It feels like minus 16 in Benton Harbor. Feels like minus 18 in St. Joseph. Feels like minus 17 in South Haven. Let's see what else do I have here. Eau Claire right now, where it's minus 1, the feels like is minus 17 as well. So again, for you, make sure when you go outside, you are bundled up and you don't spend too much time lollygagging out there because it's bitterly cold. You can get frostbite. Any skin that's exposed, that's a danger for frostbite. So watch for that. We have some tips about that in just a few moments. Also, for your pets, stand there at the back door and watch them. If they're still going outside, mine refused a couple of times. He just stood at the back door. And he's like, no,
I don't have to go that bad.
I'll hold it. It's fine. Hold it for 3 days. But go out there. If you let your pet outside, stand there at the door and let them in immediately and then give them a big hug to warm them back up. The forecast for today, partly cloudy skies. We do still have a chance of snow. The high today is supposed to get up to 18 degrees, but that doesn't really account for the wind. We're still going to have gusts out of the south up to 30 miles per hour. Tonight's forecast, mostly cloudy. A chance of snow continues. A low overnight of 8. Winds still gusting out of the south, 25 miles per hour. And then mostly cloudy skies tomorrow, a chance of snow on Thursday with a high around 25 degrees. More news coming up. ABC News Now, our local news preview coming up next.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
All right, we'll give you the preview of what's happening in the WSJM newsroom, and then we'll give you ABC News. Some of the stories that we'll be covering coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. See, I feel like I'm under the microscope right now because I have the Chief Nuclear Officer sitting here watching what I'm doing, and I'm thinking, for most people, if I accidentally do something or other, it's fine. But as a Chief Nuclear Officer, you're thinking, that didn't work out like you thought, did it? How do we improve that in the future? It's all about Six Sigma and that kind of stuff.
Self-checking.
Fine. All right. Some of the news stories that we're covering coming up at 8 o'clock. Nasty roads resulted in yet more crashes and lane closures yesterday on 94. One of the big pain points in Van Buren County was near Hartford. Multiple slide-offs and accidents at around 9 o'clock in the morning forced the shutdown of nearly 10 miles of I-94. Michigan State Police say only minor injuries were reported as a result. They say slick roads and whiteout conditions were to blame when there was a collision involving 3 semi-trucks. That triggered a full chain reaction, and eventually involving 10 passenger cars and 6 semis. They didn't get the roadway cleared on 94 eastbound until about 2 p.m. So it was just a mess, and as we've heard from Kelly Ferneau, 94 was just a mess all over yesterday. So just be careful. There's potential for travel impact because of the blowing snow. That's going to continue today and into tomorrow. Some of the other stories we're covering today: when temperatures fall as low as they have in Southwest Michigan, officials say it's important to be prepared for emergencies. We talk a lot about preparing for emergencies in your car, but we also talk with some experts who say make sure you have a stash at home too, just in case, because with all the winds, we've knock on wood, we've not had some power outages to speak of, but that could happen. And so they say you should be prepared. And getting off the cold weather for just a moment, paying more for eggs in the store. Are you having a hard time finding eggs? Well, there's a few reasons why. One of them is bird flu. Another is Michigan's new law about cage-free eggs. Cage-free chickens laying cage-free eggs. So we'll talk all about that with Michigan State University Extension poultry academic specialists. That's coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. All right, now let's get ABC News, and then we'll have the latest from Michigan News Network. Let's see. Let me make sure I do this right because the chief nuclear officer is still watching me. Let's see. All right. Oh, no, it's not going to do it right. Okay, there it is. We'll do that one. I'll hit that button, and that should do it right. Okay, here we go.
ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. 90,000 power outages reported right now from Texas.
I mean, because honestly, everything that happens in a nuclear power plant, I like to think is planned and it's very deliberate. Is that the case, Kelly Ferneau?
That is the case. Yes.
Okay.
Everything.
Everything.
Everything. Even the walk into work.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I mean, do you have any stories you can share about that?
We just, our biggest goal is to make sure nobody gets hurt on site, that they go home the same way they came in. And so we have a group of facilities folks, but every day this week so far, you drive to work, the roads are not in good condition. You get to the plant property, it's pristine.
Yeah.
The roads are clear, sidewalks are clear.
Wow.
And
what's
so
the secret? How do you guys do that?
those folks care. No, seriously, they care.
Yeah.
And then, there are times when the wind's blowing and so they can't get everything. And you'll see plant employees stop, grab a shovel. We have shovels staged everywhere, shovel and salt to make sure they're looking out for the person behind them. So it's all about caring about each other.
That is a culture that you've created and that you nurture. How do you do that? A lot of people think about, well, if you think about it, you know how hard culture is to adjust. Culture is always there. It's just adjusting the culture to what you want it to be can be very different and difficult. And so how do you measure, how do you check and adjust your culture at Cook Nuclear?
One of the big things we've done is praise people for bringing up low level issues, so we're seeing those low level things that happen so we can act upon it. I'll give you an example. Yesterday you had a person working by themselves. They were taking some stuff off of a pallet, and when they pried it up, we had a piece of a knot in the wood, and it popped out and it hit him in the cheek.
Oh, goodness.
No injury. He had his safety gloves on, had his safety glasses on. So nothing happened, but he called a supervisor and said, hey, this happened. And we were able to share that in our morning meeting this morning to say, hey, line of fire injuries can happen. Luckily, this person was safe. They had all their protective gear on. But the fact that person felt comfortable reporting it, knowing that it was going to be a good thing, and then caring enough to do that so that we can share it and say, hey, guys, let's watch out for line of fire events. We just had a near miss, you know? So that's what we do. We talk about behaviors, not events, so that we can, take action on small behaviors and we make it safe for people. And then we give them appreciative feedback for doing it. And this person was a new person too. And, the courage it would take as a new person to kind of say, oh,
raise your hand.
So I'm pretty proud of the folks that work at Cook.
Have you ever been throughout your career within nuclear engineering, have you ever been surprised or scared that you can talk about?
I've never been scared.
Okay.
I've always felt safe at work. Surprised, there's always surprises along the way, but just, different things that happen, things you need to respond to. But we're all a big team, and so we work together to overcome obstacles. We
were talking about the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and how they govern what happens here in the United States. Have you visited nuclear power plants outside of the United States, and how different is it?
I have not.
Okay.
The one thing we do have is a group.
Is there a reason you haven't?
I just
should we be scared?
No, I just haven't had the opportunity
okay.
to. I'd love to.
Yeah.
There's a group called the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations, and that's a group that I'll say does internal evaluations of performance because they're not external like the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. They're internal. They're independent, but they're they're funded by the nuclear plants.
Okay.
And they have, they're associated with the World Association of Nuclear Operators. And so they have a world organization that looks at the plants all over to make sure that they're operating safely. So that gives me confidence that they're being monitored, they're being evaluated, and they're taking actions to improve performance.
Yeah.
So we compare ourselves all across the world around performance, not just in the U.S.
Yeah, because one of the other countries, I mean, I don't know where all they have nuclear power, but I know in Asia they've got nuclear power, as well as France is huge for nuclear power, or had been in the past, or I don't know where they are today on their stance.
Nuclear power plants are being built everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, China has built, I don't know, 13 in the last 5 years, and
Wow.
you've got like 20 more on the books.
Wow.
They're building them in all kinds of countries, countries you would never expect.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are looking at these small modular reactors too. So
Yeah.
the whole world is realizing, for the carbon-free future, for the safe, reliable power source, nuclear is one of the components that's needed.
The difference between what Cook Nuclear is today and what opportunities are opened with small modular nuclear reactors. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So Cook is part of our current fleet. The one thing exciting happening at Cook right now, our licenses, Unit 1 expires in 2034 and Unit 2 expires in 2037. But we've maintained our plant. We've replaced components. And so we're looking at extending our license for another 20 years.
Okay.
So that's exciting for Cook currently.
Yeah.
The small modular reactors are smaller. So Cook puts out about 2,200 megawatts. The smaller plants vary, but the one that's being looked at mostly right now is around 300 megawatts. So
What does
much
that
smaller?
What does that mean? What can that power?
So for Cook, we can supply like 1.5 million homes.
Okay.
So, 300 megawatt would be much smaller. That would be more like a data center or
Okay.
something along those lines.
Okay.
But you can also put them in pods. You can, have more on one location so that you can increase the output. But the thing that's good for the small modular reactors is they take up a much smaller footprint. They're newer designs. So if there is an issue, the plants would just shut down themselves without any kind of operator action needed.
Wow.
And then the security and the emergency planning zone would be at the plant boundary. So right now, we send out the information. If you hear the sirens, in the 5 miles and 10 miles,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have that because there wouldn't be any issues outside of the plant boundary.
Okay.
So that's kind of one of the advantages there.
Well, when you say the footprint for a small modular reactor is smaller, what are we talking about? Tractor trailer? Smaller, bigger?
Bigger than that.
Okay.
They are developing some micro reactors that they could have like at a military base on a tractor or
That makes
a pickup
sense.
truck bed, those types of things. So the designs that are going on out there are pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But
Can I 3D print one? Can I DIY it?
Maybe. I think you might be able to market that.
I'm probably going to get investigated now by the nuclear regulatory. No, it's exciting. And so, between small, do you plan on small modular reactors at Cook?
We are not expecting to put a small modular reactor at Cook right now.
Yeah.
But as a company, we just announced that we're going to look at early site permitting for a small modular reactor down at our Rockport plant, which is in southern Indiana.
Okay.
That's currently a coal plant that's scheduled to shut down.
Yeah.
And then we're also doing early site permitting at an old coal plant in Virginia.
Okay.
So for us, we are looking at what do our customers want? What do the states want? Do they want nuclear? If they do, we're going to work hard to provide it for them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of based on all what the states want and how we can meet those needs.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of discussion about, okay, we shut down a coal power plant. That's great. It's providing the benefits on the environmental side that you want. But on the other hand, okay, now how do we supply electricity?
Right. And the electricity demand is doing nothing but going up with all the data centers. So the good thing about putting a small modular reactor at a coal location is you already have the infrastructure. You've got the power lines, all those kinds of things are already there.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you got a workforce too, right?
Yeah.
You have people to operate those plants that aren't going to have a job.
That are thirsty for work.
Right. And they're skilled and talented. So let's use it.
All right. We're talking with Kelly Ferneau, Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook. We'll be right back. We're continuing this conversation in just a moment.
Our winter weather advisory returns this afternoon through tonight and tomorrow for fresh accumulating snow. We'll see that lake effect snow continue tomorrow with highs in the low to mid 20s. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
We're getting real-time traffic updates from the community. Do you want to say?
There's an accident on 94 at Niles Road, so
Yeah, be careful. We had one earlier on the 94 after Pipestone. That messed up lanes for a little bit. Now it sounds like there's one on 94 near Niles. Just be careful out there, in addition to some of the visibility issues. The slippery roadways. You can't, just because it looks clear,
it's
can't
probably not clear.
You can't fly down the road. We're talking with Kelly Ferneau. She's the Chief Nuclear Officer and Executive Vice President for Cook Nuclear Power Plant and AEP. And we've been talking a lot this hour about nuclear energy. Anything else that any public service announcements that your communications person, Bill Downey, wanted you to get across today? Did he say, make sure you mention this?
No, he did not.
Okay.
One of the things I will say is one of the things that we have available is our Cook AEP Foundation.
Okay.
And so we are going to be starting to communicate how to apply for those funds. It's for nonprofit organizations. And so that's something I'm pretty excited to support here from the Cook plant, because, our community is very important to us. That's where we all live. That's where we work. And it used to be more controlled by AEP overall, but those funds have been sent down to the Cook plant now. And so I'm pretty excited to have a lot more control. So since we're here, we can see where the need is. So watch the news media, watch our Facebook page for information on how to apply for those kind of grants.
Big announcement. Well, thank you very much. So it's called, again, the formal title of it is?
The Cook Foundation.
Cook Foundation.
Yep.
Okay. And so we'll be looking for more news on that. We'll probably write a news story between now and then anyway.
Perfect.
So let's make this part of our Moody on the Market update. Our Moody on the Market update is brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owner's insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. One of the things we like to bring you with the Moody on the Market update is interesting people you should know. We think Kelly Ferneau fits that description perfectly. She's the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. And one of the things that you just mentioned was the Cook Foundation. You're also involved in the Berrien Community Foundation. And so for our audience, maybe could you talk a little bit about why it's important through the Cook Foundation or through the Berrien Community Foundation? What are your thoughts around community, and why is it important to be involved in the way that you are?
Well, I think there's a lot of need out there. And I think being on the foundation kind of opens your eyes to that need. One of the things about the foundation that I think is powerful, the foundation pools money. So, some people can only give a small amount. Maybe I can only give $25. Maybe I can only give $5, or maybe I can give a lot of money. But what it does is the foundation pools the money. So every person that donates $5, that money builds and becomes a large sum that we can then distribute to folks in need in the community, organizations in need in the community. So it's a great way for every member of the community to have an impact.
Yeah.
Whereas, singularly by yourself, it's pretty small, but when we work together, it becomes a large impact.
Yeah, that collective focus on areas of need, as you mentioned, there are a lot of areas of need that people just may not even be aware of. Just the other day, we were talking about, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, we were talking about some of the warming shelters that are in our area. You never hear about those. You never see those until the day that it's 17 degrees below zero.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you've got, for the grace of God, a lot of people going forward and opening their shelters to help people not freeze to death, literally.
Right. Yep.
So it's foundations and organizations, and the Berrien Community Foundation is one of those that helps a lot of people who have a lot of need. They also work on education. So when you talk about the Cook Foundation, will education scholarships, that kind of thing, will they be part of it? Do you have that?
For the foundation itself, it's nonprofits.
Okay.
But we do the Heart of Cook grants and things like
That's
that
right.
that will continue.
Okay, very good. We're talking with Kelly Ferneau. She's the Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. For Cook itself, the plant, what do you need? What do you want? What do you want the community to know?
I think look for opportunities to come work at Cook. There's a lot to say for going to college, but there's a lot to say for working in the trades.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shortage out there for, electricians and things like that.
Yeah.
So be looking at all those different opportunities for work. We have a lot of openings all the time, and we're looking for people that live in the community that want to stay.
Yeah.
We're looking for when we have our outages, we bring those 1,000 extra people in, be kind to our folks that come. We wouldn't be successful if they weren't here, but they also bring a lot of money into the community. They stay at hotels,
Absolutely.
Airbnbs, they go out to eat. So be kind to those folks. They're here to help us.
Yeah. And so just for perspective, the during the refueling events, you've got usually 950 people who work out there on a regular basis. Then for the refueling events, which last how many days?
Typically around 30.
Around 30 days. You bring in an additional 1,000 people. That's huge. And when we have that story, we always mention the economic impact that it has, because for 30 days, that population of 1,000 people, they've got to do everything and fun as well. I hope.
Yep.
I hope they're having fun. But what do they do during those refueling? What are their tasks?
So during the refueling outages, we take the plant offline, and so there's equipment available to work on that's normally running. So our main turbines, that's the thing that the steam spins that turns the shaft to turn the generator. We'll take that apart, portion of it every outage, and redo the blades. The secondary pumps that are normally running when we're online, we'll take those apart and refurbish them. We do a lot of work on valves. So it's just the time to get into those components that are normally running and make sure they're in good condition for the next, operating cycle, which lasts about 18 months. So that's the goal, is to make sure the equipment's in good condition so it's going to work for another 18 months.
Okay. All right. We'll come back in just a couple of moments and conclude this interview. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
Rich Brand and Tara Halsey from Insurance Management Service, your local auto owners insurance agency in St. Joseph and Niles, know it means something to have peace of mind knowing your insurance is taken care of.
I want to just tell my clients thank you.
Let's do this on the video live stream so that we make sure that we get it mentioned. Talk about you're also involved with Lake Michigan College. In fact, yesterday we had Dave Kruger, who's in charge of their workforce education, careers education, and he was talking about vocational occupations and stackable certifications and everything else. It sounds like it's right in line with what Cook is thinking.
Yeah, so I am on the Lake Michigan College Foundation as well, and one of the really exciting things for people is, if you go there, your education is free.
Okay.
And one of the things the foundation works on, since we have the funding for education, now we're looking at funding for books and, childcare, the things that keep people from being able to go to college. So it's a huge opportunity for the community to be able to go get a really good education at a very, very low cost.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. And they have, education around the trades as well.
Okay. And you can get that certification. I mean, it can be ongoing, as we heard from our guest yesterday. It can be ongoing. So you may have a role today and you have your eyes on a future role. You can go to school, get that certification, and get that promotion. That's kind of cool.
Yep.
That's amazing stuff.
Lots of options.
Do you have any jobs for radio announcers out there?
I'm sure they do.
At Cook. All right. I could do the weather every day. Hello, Cook workers. It's going to be a beautiful day today.
Yeah, we could do a live stream of the weather.
That's perfect. Okay, we'll come back in just a moment and finish this interview. Let me do this and this. I'll move this commercial right here. And thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it. All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
Save big money at Menards.
From the Pat Moody Studios, this is News Talk Sports 94.9. WSJM FM Benton Harbor, St. Joseph. Depend on us. The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
7:59, just before 8 o'clock. We'll have ABC News in just a moment. I want to say thank you so much to Kelly Ferneau, who has joined us from Cook Nuclear Power Plant. She's the Chief Nuclear Officer there. Congratulations on the relatively new role. You've been in it since Halloween.
Yes, it's still new. I get to claim it as new still.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to ask you one more question for the video live stream. We'll have that in a moment. If you want to tune in, if you're curious, you have to tune into the video live stream on YouTube or on Facebook. But I'll ask that in a moment, so hang tight just a second. It is Wednesday, January 22nd. The time is 8 o'clock. We have our latest from ABC News now. We'll have our local news next. It is the WSJM Morning Show.
From ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. The historic winter storm that's frozen the...
All right. And so that last question for Kelly Ferneau, Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. What do you do in your off time? What do you do for fun?
I like to camp and I like to hike.
Yeah.
So being outdoors is really how I enjoy my free time.
Okay.
Maybe not today.
Today would
but,
be a tough one.
Yeah. But
Have you
my-
ever snow camped?
We have not. So
Okay.
we have a camper.
Okay.
A glamper.
Very nice.
So the cold weather isn't that conducive to
Yeah.
it, but we just enjoy getting out and not being at home with all the chores.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's great. Okay. Well, thanks again for your time today. We really appreciate it. Can't believe you had to take a 6:30 meeting before you came in. They work hard out there. So thank you very much, Kelly Ferneau, Chief Nuclear Officer at Cook Nuclear Power Plant. If there's anything you ever need, let us know.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for watching on the video live stream.